Sy moet 'n piering. 'n Piering.
Ja, 'n piering.
Ooh, 'n piering my kind.
Ja, ja.
So,
ja.
because it's you, man. I never have cake. Mense moet sien. Kyk aan. So my maak en sê, kyk aan so. Because in there, it's you, Charmaine. I know you don't, baby don't care for it. Maar jy kan nie vir Charmaine op jou podcast bring. Waar is die pierings?
Wag, laat die mense ook nie. The new tydskrif
Yes.
came out. And do you know that somebody actually said to me, "Maar jy staan nie so dik nie. Jy lyk dik op daai cover."
Hoekom is mense so
But she's
comfortable?
right. But she's right.
Partykeer lyk ek ook geswel.
Toe
Dink ek
sê
nie.
ek, "Va, jy is daai rock man. They mustn't give me geometric patterns." Ek weet ek lyk soos 'n sak aardappels, but I agreed with her and then she was very happy.
But people are so comfortable to tell because they very mense sê vir my ek was al baie gesê ek is dik. It's a standard operation en dat ek baie gelukkig is om my vrou te hê. Ek weet, kyk dit weet ek. But come on, give me a break.
I mean really. And then
My
I think
maat my ook mos lief.
it's still okay to smack you like here on your bouder and
Do they do that?
yes, so touch on your bouder. Say, "Hallo." Dankie Here mevrou, okay.
Ek moet vatterig raak ja, my nie. Ja, nou that is unfortunately part and parcel.
That's our people.
Ons mense.
Ons mense.
Cool. Are you in focus, my bro?
Let's just get you
Let me look at that so can I help you.
okay, yeah, you can see.
I can't see anything from that side. Kaas jy so brille is nie. Kan jy nie sien as jy daar focus.
Flasje wil jy my brille leen.
You know what's so difficult to see if it's soft or not yet?
It's so that they just you look at the red
Yeah, in
outline.
the grip, that will be it.
Yeah, that's what's in focus. Okay, cool.
Let's just... Ek klomp goede die. Vinette, ek klomp goede. I used to do all of this myself. Vinette. Can you believe it? It was a bit of a mess at one point. Look how good you look.
Oh wow.
She was a queen. Never. Okay, cool. You can have this tea once gaan eat.
No, I'm going to.
We can have a good time. You know I roll the cameras as soon as we walk in.
That's fine.
No, I know it's, but I like some. I just have to tell people because sometimes it's invasive. I feel guilty
It's okay.
because there's a natural nature of the way I do the show.
Yes.
I can get you at the door. It's part of my formula. I can get
Okay.
you at the door,
Yes.
and then we go in and we have I make the coffee,
Yes.
and I find that makes
Puts
the
people
guests at ease because they realize that it's just me and Kashif here. And so also the whole idea of the things that I tell everyone, it's not to be mean to anybody. Like a lot of these podcasts can be scary
Yeah.
because now, just move the light there, because now people must know kliks hê man. Nou wil hulle jou seer maak om by kliks te kry. Alfred, ons het jou gesien in 'n foto destyds, 'n eier steel by 'n winkel. But you know what I mean? They always go to the negative, which I don't quite enjoy. Is this near enough? Yeah. Cool. So that's why. But it's been great so far. So I'm also just figuring it out as we go. You know how it is.
Yeah, people have got a funny. Daar's 'n snaakse streek, mense het 'n snaakse streek. Hulle dink omdat jy 'n comedian is of whatever, they have to one up you.
I get that a lot. That is the most common thing actually now, and it's the first time someone verbalizes it like that because it's so true. People meet you and somewhere it triggers in their head that they almost, well, sometimes their funniness comes through as nasty, man. Angry. Now it puts you on the back foot, but I have to now tell myself they like you, they love you, they watch your shows.
Yeah.
This is a big moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's number 4 for you today, but they probably haven't seen you live yet.
Exactly.
So it can be challenging, especially when your children are there.
Yeah.
When your children are there, and so many people, 9 out of 10 are actually really good because my audience is older. When I have my baby or my son, they'll say, and you can see they want a picture, but then they'll just go. And thank goodness for adults.
No, absolutely. I had a thing with my mom, God bless her soul, and may she rest in peace. My mom, we used to go shopping or whatever the case may be, and I used to say to her, Mom, these people are, but she was already in her years, so I said, Mom, these people are going to come and ask for a photograph. You know what? And it's a lot of people. Now, you just pretend that you don't know where you are, or, you know, you
Like die mekaar.
yeah, make like you confused and they mekaar. Then I'm going to say to them, man, I'm sorry, you know, I can't leave my mother alone for a minute. But thank you so much, man. I know that you, and I really appreciate you. Mommy, are you okay? And then she says, where are we? Where are we? And I'm saying, we're in Woolworths. It's okay. I'm here with you. Whatever. Sorry, man. Whatever. Shame. And then she did get to me.
Shame. You see?
No, it was terrible. But
Is sorry to break your word. Is the sound good? Perfect. We're gonna start officially.
Okay, there
It's
we go.
started already. Ladies and gentlemen, Vinette Ebrahim.
oh,
Fantastic. Listen, this is a very big moment because dis waarom ek het koek gebring. This is the first time we have cake. Ek het my ma ook in my ma's. And out of the flower base.
look there, eh?
Stay focused. Thank you so much for coming. All the way from, I don't want to say where you live now, but all the way from
okay.
far. Is that okay?
People know I live in Paarl.
Yes, it's a lovely place to be. I love Paarl.
I must say, I think it's the best thing that's
That you
happened
did.
to me. It was so ding wat maar vinnig gebeur het. But I'm loving every moment of being there.
Really? Oh, that's great.
Ek sê nogal vir mense, ek het my saligheid kom kry daarso.
En hoe het dit vinnig gebeur? Because where were you before? Joburg.
Joburg,
And
25 years.
25 years. Originally from Cape Town.
From Cape Town.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then 25 years in Johannesburg. And then how long now in Paarl?
A year and a half. And yes, after being in Johannesburg for 25 years.
Yeah, so me and you almost moved more or less the same time. I mean, I'm not even a year yet, but half. Is lankie.
Yes.
You know, first and foremost, a lot of this audience is going to be confused as to why we speak English. Vinette is English speaking. She's an actress. Actress, because I never picked up that you, in all the work, and Sewende Laan and Barakat and all that, I never picked it up. I never picked up that this is, because sometimes you pick it up, you go,
Yes,
sakkel is
yes,
so met die Engels.
ja.
Of Afrikaans.
Nee, ek is van die 25% van die Weskaapse mense wat Engels groot geword het. En ek moes 2 keer so hard werk om Afrikaans te leer praat, maar ek leer hom soos musiek. Jy weet as dit 'n lang sin is, dan deel ek hom op in 3. En dan jy weet daai ou manier van musiek, ta 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 ta. So ek leer hom so. En ek sny daai sin op in 3 en daai so ek hom leer. But sometimes it becomes difficult for me to express myself, you know, when we're in an interview situation. Dan staan ek sommer oor in Engels of whatever the case may be. Maar ek gee nie om Afrikaans te praat nie. Vir my is Afrikaans die mooiste taal. Daar is net sekere goed wat jy nie kan vertaal nie. Daar is sekere goed wat jy nie kan sê in Engels nie, of jy kan dit nie. Daar is 'n klomp vloekwoorde wat jy ook nie, jy weet, in sulke goed, maar die poësie, die tekste, die goed, daar is goed wat ek gelees het wat net in Afrikaans bestaan wat jy nie eintlik kan vertaal nie. So,
is 'n mooi taal. So 100 jaar oud die jaar officially apparently.
Ja.
Ek is mos I'm born and bred.
Ja.
Afrikaans primary high school. My wife is always shocked. It's like, did you do math in Afrikaans? I say, yeah. It's not Pythagoras in my head, it's Pythagoras. We did everything. And then all of a sudden you have to change over because university is English.
Yeah.
But like still now, I'm sure now it's much easier. I mean, you've done so much Afrikaans
Yeah.
stuff. Is it much easier? It's a muscle, right?
It's much easier now. It's much easier now. I'm even going into accent, which is so
Yes,
I
yes.
can still with my work at the moment. I'm finding ek kan so bietjie daar so 'n plaas aksent of 'n
Ja.
of 'n Noord-Kaapse
Ja,
aksent
Noord-Kaap,
wat so
ja.
jy weet
Distinct
so
is, ja.
wat nou inkruip en so.
ja.
En wat vir my verskriklik lekker is.
Yes.
Ja,
Ja, that's
so
nice.
ja. En maar vir my sal Afrikaans nog altyd na aan my hart wees.
Okay. And tell me, how did you get into acting? I know your father was in theater.
Ja.
Is it just like a family thing?
I think theater was always something that we kind of grew up with it. It was, there were books. My father he had his own theater group.
Okay.
The people that we grew up with in our home, they were incredibly theatrical.
Yeah.
And, people like the late Bill Curry, Richard Reeve, they were our neighbors.
Okay.
My dad, always invited these people. We were always stuck in a rehearsal somewhere. And also at my grandmother's home in Claremont, Rosemead Avenue, there was what seemed to me like a barn at the back of the house. It was obviously a garage or something, but for me, it was like this huge barn.
Yeah.
My father had costumes and props and decor, because he used to make them himself. En daar het ek nou lekker verlore geraak.
Okay.
En daai reuk van kostuums en decor en sulke goed. Eintlik is dit net stof en verf.
Ja, maar is distinct.
A very distinctive
distinct.
smell.
Ja.
En daai ding is wat vir my so getrek het.
Is it?
En my ouma, my pa se ma, sy het nou klavier gespeel vir die mense in die kerk en jy weet, en sy was nou die een wat gesing het en sy was nou die mens wat begelei het en so en jy weet, haar seuns moes altyd reg gestaan het om te sing en ek moes altyd opsê en you know, things like that. So ek dink dit was maar
'n familieding. Dis 'n familieding.
Ja.
Because kyk, as ek nou dink aan baie keer when you look at art in Cape Town, it's rich, and I think it's because it's so cultural here.
Yeah.
Where I come from, sort of man, ek kom van Hankie, beautiful people, but I didn't know anybody that played a piano.
Yeah.
So it's all that and then that it's sort of infused in the way you grow up. So you get that's why there's so many talented people in the Western Cape. I think there's a whole culture around it. Yeah.
Maar ook as jou ma of jou pa 'n onderwyser of 'n skoolhoof was, was daar eers iemand wat klavier gespeel het of jy weet, jy het skool toneel gedoen of jy weet so iets, daar was altyd iets aan die gang, jy weet. So somewhere in our families,
it's
you
there.
know, it's there.
The need to express.
Yeah.
And was there ever any plan of going to do something else, becoming a teacher, becoming a... Nooit. It was always, I'm going to be an actress.
That was, I think I decided at the age of 4.
Yes.
I wanted
4?
to. Yes, that was
it. It was that sure.
I was that sure. And I remember at kindergarten, ek was, moenie lag nie. Adriaan, moenie, Alfred, moenie lag nie. I decided I couldn't be the Snow White or the princess, want ek was te dik.
Okay.
Ek was te dik om die prinses te wees. So, met Sleeping Beauty wat hulle nou gedoen het, het ek besluit, I'm going to be the storyteller. I want to be the storyteller, maar op die stage gaan ek kom. So terwyl hulle nou daar perform het
Ja.
ek vir my pa gevra om 'n groot boek te maak.
Laat jy kan.
So ek lees die storie.
Baie dramaties en
Very
draaie.
dramatic. Terwyl hulle nou, and
that's so
Sleeping
cute.
Beauty fell asleep. Daar gaan sy aan die slaap. And then the prince kissed her. Maar ek was daar voor op die stage in my mooi rok en so.
Ja.
Maar
Oh,
ek
that's
was
so
daar op die stage.
cute. It's so
know.
cute. That's actually a great idea.
Yeah. And then also at primary school,
Yes.
ek het daai hele nativity play het ek ook verander. Ek het besluit ek gaan 'n meisie wees wat 'n blinde meisie
Okay.
wat gaan slaap ou Kersaand en dan droom ek van die nativity
Ja.
en dan word sy Kersfeesoggend wakker
Ja.
en sy kan weer sien because she dreamt the whole nativity play. Jy weet sulke goed.
That is way before your time.
You know.
This was a sliding doors movie. Die hele movie was 'n droom.
Ja.
Oh, that's lovely.
Sulke goed het ek gedoen. And they fell for it.
But such a nice story because your
Yeah.
parents, your ouers, obviously, they just let you wonder.
Ja.
What a wonderful, and what a wonderful thing to know so young that this is it.
That was it for me.
And your parents never pushed you. They knew. They going, so.
My mother wanted me to become a receptionist.
Was smart aangetrek.
Yeah, and whatever. I did try that for a little while. It didn't last long. And then but before that, I used to go to the Space Theatre.
Okay.
While
Space
I was
Theatre? Where's that?
at high school.
Oh, okay.
In Bloom Street in town. Do you know where the Wave Theatre is now?
Yes.
That was the new Space Theatre, but the old Space Theatre was in Bloom Street.
Okay.
En daar het ons het begin van scratch. Dit was net 'n gebou. And I used to go and help them paint. And I used to go and help them, I even laid bricks.
Is it?
Ons het alles gedoen wat ons kon.
Die show moet
plek,
aangaan.
Maar die show moet aangaan. Because what happened was Yvonne Bryceland and Brian Asprey, who were my mentors.
Yes.
And Yvonne was, at that point, in the 70s, she was the doyenne of theatre in this country. And she was just fantastic. And that's where I met people like Peter Dirk Ace and Madeline van Reen and al die groot name, En hulle het klas gegee daarso.
Okay.
So for 6 months after, look, I wasn't a good student at school. Ek was van daai wat ek lag altyd as jy die storie vertel van, my kind het geslaag,
Ja.
my kind het geslaag.
Vanaand eet ons lekker in die huis.
Daar sê you
Ja.
know. So ek was ook van daai because I was more interested in politics
Yes.
and in theatre and in the arts.
Yes.
So those were my things.
Yes.
My brothers were prefects, they were head boy and vice head boy en hulle het goed deurgekom en alles.
Ja.
En toe kom die Ebrahim nou agterna. En hulle het gedink, wow, hier kom nog 'n Ebrahim en sê, they were terribly disappointed.
This is the trouble starter.
This was the troublemaker and
Yeah.
it started.
And tell me, sorry to interrupt you, and tell me, how many brothers?
2.
And you're the baby?
Vincent and Ivan, and I'm the baby, yes.
So I just told Vinette now that I didn't know. Ek het nou vandag uitgevind that Vincent was your brother.
Yes.
Fantastic actor. My goodness.
He is. He's
fantastic
a
actor.
wonderful actor.
Internationally famous for, Harold and Kumar, number 42. And just so believable. And I in that movie, and I want all of them on here eventually, but I told you the story that in that movie, you know how art can affect your heart.
Yeah.
That movie that Riyadh and them did, the first material, it hit so hard because my father had that shop and I was the eldest son, and there was a responsibility and a weight. And it's amazing how art can shift and move people, you know.
Yeah.
And the importance of it. Like during COVID, somebody said, imagine we didn't have art during COVID.
Yeah.
What would you have done?
Yeah.
And when we say those things, I get heartbroken all the time because so many fantastic artists come sit here. I can say so many now because it's albeit number 15. And it's always a similar story about abuse in South Africa. And I think also sometimes even a little bit around the world, I think there's a lot of abuse around artists. You mentioned that people must read, in another interview I saw, people must read their contracts.
Yes.
And when I came into this business, because I came from, I was a BCom grad, went to marketing. So it was all about reading the contract, reading the fine print. Ek begin so maar onder.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how would you say those things impact people? Because like a lot of the time artists, because we're so wired to the art, we don't have the money, we don't make enough money to get a professional lawyer to read this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we get abused. It's rife.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate and it's rife
Yeah.
that we're not taken care of.
I think the contract itself, the engagement contract, is pretty standard. Okay. At the moment, I think they've now gotten, after many years, they've gotten rid of the Paarl contract because Paarl doesn't exist anymore. For years, the SABC was still running on the Paarl contract, which doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But now they've got the PMA contract, if I'm not mistaken, the performers management contract, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But it's important for every artist to actually read their own contract. It's fine for their agents, because what a lot of us do, myself included, we sign power of attorney to our agents.
Yes.
So they read the contract and they say, okay, no, everything's fine, it's whatever. But I urge every artist to read their contracts, because this is how I was caught, for instance. It gets to a point where now in soapies and sulke goed, you've got activations.
Yes.
You know what activations
Brand
are.
activations.
Brand activations.
You go into a mall.
Daar sê.
Jy maak vir hulle geld.
Jy maak vir hulle geld. En dan sê hulle vir jou op 'n Vrydagoggend of hulle beplan sulke goed soos hulle vat 'n klomp mense, hulle sit vir jou op 'n vliegtuig, dan vat hulle vir jou sê maar nou van Joburg af Kaapstad toe, en dan is jy Vrydagmiddag 2 sessions, een by die mall, een by daai mall. Dan Saterdag 3 sessions by 3 verskillende malls, en dan Sondag is dit 2 sessions voor jy huis toe vlieg, en dan moet jy nog Maandag gaan werk.
Ja.
Hoe lyk ons dan nie nou nie, right?
Ja.
So then you read your contract, and it says that you owe the company, you owe them 6 activations.
Yes.
So what have you done over that weekend? You've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've actually done 7
Yes.
activations. But as far as they're concerned, a day is an activation.
So it's an activation day instead of an activation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But then they don't pay you, because as far as they're concerned, you owe. You've signed the contract to owe
Yes.
them. That's part of your contract. En sulke goed.
Nee, hulle doen sulke goed. And the reason for that is, and this is Alfred speaking from his marketing side, the reason for that is extremely lucrative for the production company. They often make as much money or more money from the activations and the brand exposure than what they would make from the actual production. In fact, we've seen nowadays that companies will come and pitch before they even wrote the story. They used to come to, I was working at a very prominent toothpaste company as the brand head. And they would come and they go, listen, Mr. Adriaan, we've got this beautiful thing. We're going to write the story. It's about a romantic couple. This is the setting. It's a sitcom. we can put toothpaste in the bathrooms for you. It's going to cost you, for the season, 150,000 rand.
Yeah.
And then we can get the main character to go to a mall on behalf of your toothpaste company. Daai is die contract wat jy nou van praat, die activations. And then we'll only charge you 60,000 rand per person per activation. So at the end of the day, they foot their bills with those things.
Right.
Now this is business and we understand people must make their money.
Yeah.
But it lends itself to a lot of abuse when the artist doesn't have the resources to pay people to read those contracts. En in daai contract is jy doen nou 7 nou.
Yeah.
Hey, jy's pap en jy's klaar. I
Exactly.
saw it with my comedian friends. It happens all the
Yeah.
time. That's why
Yeah.
I've always sort of been so weary because I've seen it happen to people where they work on radio now. Hy het nou 'n radio slot gekry en in sy contract is daar 17 brand goede wat hy moet doen.
Yeah.
So now the man is posting on, imagine I'm in that radio slot
Yeah.
or I'm on a TV
Yeah.
slot and then all of
Yeah.
a sudden I'm posting every day. My audience came here because they like the jokes.
Yeah.
Now I'm posting about this product, that product,
Yeah,
every
yeah.
single day, and I'm legally bound to do so. So it can become ugly.
You know, and I think if I'm going to post and advertise or whatever
Yeah.
the case may be, it's because I like doing what I'm
Yes.
doing, not
Yes.
because I'm obligated to do it, you know, and I shouldn't be. I
Yes.
shouldn't be.
And there's a relationship that you've built with the audience, one where they trust Vinette, they trust her to.
Yeah.
And then this company will go, like for example, if it's Alfred Adriaan, that's why I'm so scared of any brand work almost. I'm not
Yeah.
against it, but I'm so
Yeah.
nervous because they go,
Yeah.
okay, Alfred, we want you, this is the amount of money
Yeah.
we're paying, but there's a new cigarette that's coming out, and I'm making now an exaggerated example.
Yeah,
a new
yeah.
cigarette for kids.
Yeah.
You have to do it.
Yes.
You know?
No.
Then I go, no, but this is completely against the audience that I've built, the way that I've done
Exactly.
things. So when you look at those contracts and those deals, and that's also part and parcel of an economy that struggles when big production companies have to
Yeah.
push you that way because they need to make the
Yeah.
bottom line work.
Yeah.
So yeah, reading the contract's a big deal.
I know this sounds a bit sort of, but luckily I am in a position to say I can choose what I want to do.
Yes.
When I say in a position, I've paid my dues.
Absolutely.
En ek kan mos nou sê no,
Nee, dankie.
nee dankie.
Yeah. Oh, nee, you know, that is, even when I started comedy 15, 12 years ago, that was the goal, because I couldn't always just say no.
Yeah.
I had to do some horrible things in
No,
my
of
day.
course.
Ooh, get snacks.
Of
Ooh,
course.
now you're going to make jokes in the back of a car. I'm like, for what? It's because you're just desperate to make a little bit of money.
Yeah, no.
But
there
man, it's such a privilege to
There
have.
were times that I thought, did I really do that? Hoe gaan het like op my CV? What are my grandchildren going to think of me?
I'll tell you a story. A very good friend of mine gets booked for a corporate event. And I'm going to turn it back over to you after this. He gets booked for a corporate event. He say, yo, my bro, hulle betaal ons kwaai, man. Hy kom maar so. Hulle sê vir hom, okay, it's at a fair, so he's thinking he's going to do comedy in a tent type of setup. It's like a feast.
Yeah.
Hulle say, oh, hello, welcome. Full rate, full corporate
Yeah,
rate. It's great
yeah.
money. Hulle sit vir hom, hulle sê, hierso, how's your suit? Jy speel die Baker's Man vandag. They booked him because he looked like the Baker's Man. Hy was in hy suit die hele dag.
Eina, yeah.
He said, yo, and there was people I knew. I asked him, so what did you do? Oh, I was the Baker's Man. That's what it is. And, you know, it's always important for us to hear these stories from seasoned veterans.
But then I also, I love my wonderful friend, Dion Lawrenson. I think you know, might know Dion. She played Paula.
Yes,
In,
Paula Pritt.
Yes, in Laan. She is an amazing person and an amazing actress. And she
Yeah.
always said, because, I mean, sometimes that character got to her, but she always said, you know, if you are going to play the fool, you just have to commit yourself
Do it well.
totally and do it the
Well.
best you can and do it well, you
Yes.
know. So,
Like in everything.
yeah.
Anyway, so we spoke touching on Seven de Laan.
Yeah.
I mean, it was how many years of Yola?
19.
19 years on the most popular soapie at the time.
Yeah.
It starts to be like people define you as that, right? It's such a difficult thing to escape. Because when I watched you in Barakat, like this character is so tough. There's so there's such a big difference, because you almost like stay, you become that person.
Yeah.
People think that that's
Yeah.
who you are. And I mean, it's on the one hand, it's fantastic. I mean, I'm sure it opens a lot of doors.
Well, today still mense sien my nog steeds as
Charmaine,
Charmaine.
yeah.
Ek kan nêrens heen gaan nie en mense sê nog, "Hallo Charmaine, hallo, hoe gaan dit en waarin speel Charmaine nou? Wat se karakter speel Charmaine nou?" Ek sal nooit enige iemand anders wees as Charmaine. Charmaine speel nou byvoorbeeld Nena in Kelders van Geheime.
Ja, Charmaine speel en
is nie Vinette wat nou is Charmaine.
yes.
Charmaine het in Diepe Waters gespeel of Charmaine het nou, jy weet whatever, dis Charmaine.
Charmaine. Have you just embraced it and just
I've had to ek het hulle vir hulle probeer sê, man, Charmaine is dood van krywe stoot.
Ja.
But they just
Hello vas. Is ook die ding, it's just too popular for it just to go away. It was just too popular and every single night. Ook die ding, there's in South Africa, ek sê altyd vir mense, when they say, "Oh Alfred, you're famous now." I say, "I'm popular." When you're on Seven de Laan, you cannot walk in the mall or jy kan in 'n pakhuis loop in Patensie. Dan gaan hulle vir jou swerm. Because you in those people's lives.
Yeah.
And it's free to air sort of, it's a public broadcaster.
Yeah.
It's a massive, it's a very difficult thing to escape. Did you find it challenging? Did you do any other work during that block? You obviously worked on other projects like.
I wasn't able to do TV or movies as such, but theatre.
Okay.
I did quite a bit of theatre in that time.
Was that the time with Ellen Pakkies?
That was, yes, Ellen Pakkies. I wrote some stuff. Chris Davids and I, we, well, I almost said young man, but he's not so young anymore. But for me, he will always be young. He's like another son, for me.
Yes.
But he and I worked quite a bit. We worked together, and he's one of the people that he inspires me. As young as he is, he inspires me to greater heights, because he always says to me, no, you must write, you must get out there and you must do stuff, and I don't want to hear how old you are and that you're sitting doing nothing and things like that. Or he'll phone me and he'll say, "So how far is the play?" and how, whatever. So I love his energy. And that's why I can truly and honestly say that he inspires me,
Yeah.
So he and I have done quite a bit together. And he's always pulled me into some of his projects and things like that. So during the time at Seven de Laan, we used to work once the movie set is wrapped. We used to work in the green room upstairs or the canteen upstairs until 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Sometimes rehearsing, our plays and things like that. And so that was
So you could do theatre work and
theatre was done quite a bit, and I haven't recently. I haven't really done much theatre. I worked with Connie de Villiers and Jana Saliers and Antoinette Kellerman on a project about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Which was that was a beautiful project as well.
What was it called?
Woordmusiek.
Okay.
It was also, Connie de Villiers is
He's very good.
He is such a brilliant person, and he's a mastermind when it comes to music and things. So what we did was we took some of his lyrics.
Yeah.
And people often asked what was Woordmusiek all about, because the name is quite confusing. But it's that point where just before lyrics become music,
Yeah.
and we read the lyrics
Okay.
while he played the music, and it was the most incredible piece of work.
Yeah.
And I know that I can quote this because it's the truth, that David Kramer
Yes.
actually said that was just excellent.
That's a
It
big
was
endorsement.
just beautiful. And
Yeah.
that, for me, was
Yeah.
a big, as you say, a big endorsement.
Yes, a big
because
endorsement.
David doesn't say things like
He doesn't have to.
You know.
And the thing, you've been around some, like Connie de Villiers is amazing. I've never
Yeah.
met him, but ek kom ons
What
deur
a
Afrikaans
wonderful-
skole.
Yeah, yeah,
En ons
yeah.
hang aan sy goede.
Yeah.
And then when you talk about Christo, especially Christo, we're the same age. So Christo, and I haven't known him that long. We've only been sort of friends for the last 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
3, 4 years.
Ja.
Hy het aan die pad afgebly by my huis in Joburg.
Regtig?
Yeah, and I always tell people, I love those moments because I go, when I meet people that are outworking me,
Ja.
because it just goes, the light goes on, you go, this guy, he works. He works to, like, I was with him and then he'd be working on a play, a TV show he's working on, and he's writing Platform 9.
Yeah.
All at the same
Yeah.
time. And I go
Yeah.
like, people like that, who are the people that you, except now for the obvious ones, that in your formative years, like when you were coming up, that you looked up to, that you sort of aspired to be like? Like, were they like people, standout people?
I can honestly say that there were very few people that look, Judi Dench is my all-time
Yes.
favorite, shall I say. I mean, I look to her and I listen to what she says, and I always aspired to be.
Yes.
But maar ons het nie daai tipe theater of daai tipe what's the word that I want? We don't have that caliber
Yeah.
of theater and whatever in this country.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are pockets of them.
Yes.
But I've been very privileged to work with people that are that make good theater.
Yeah.
I'm thinking now, hier kom die ouderdom.
It's
Hier
okay.
kom die ouderdom. Because now I see faces and I can't remember names. But I've worked at Maynardville. I've
Yes.
worked with Mark Graham, who is an excellent director. And I've worked with, sien jy nou kom ek, nou gaan die name weer.
Pad, hy is toch geen ding. Ek moes gesê
Ek moes gesê het, daai man. But also in my younger days,
Yeah.
I mentioned Yvonne Bryceland, I mentioned her husband, and they were just people who, Peter Dirk Ace, for
Yes.
instance, I did a movie with him
Yeah.
recently called Evita in Excelsior.
Yeah.
In Excelsior, and he was one of the people that I grew up with
Yeah.
at the Space Theatre.
Yeah.
And he was just amazing.
Yes.
And the fact that he still remembered me and, offered me work, and as I'm getting older and things
Yeah.
like that, that was just,
It's fantastic.
brilliant.
Yeah.
And then, man, I see this man's face in front of
When
me.
it comes to you.
When it comes to me, I will just blurt it out.
Blurt it out.
And so I've been very lucky
Yeah.
in my time in the theatre,
Yeah.
Whenever
actors sit over there, they seem to speak with reverence to theatre work. That's always what they prefer. When I ask
Yeah.
actors, actresses, they go, theatre work. It's the same for you.
Yes.
I pick it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Theatre is it.
Well, that's what we began with.
Yes.
Alfred, that's what we began with. I mean, I started, and most people my age in this country, we started before there was TV.
Ja.
Verstaan jy wat ek bedoel? So, daai was it was never our aim to be on TV. It was always, theatre was always the thing.
Yeah.
TV was a bonus,
Ja.
you know.
Ja.
And I think if I was to be given the choice, and if we were in a different situation in this country where theatre was cultivated to such a point that it was a sustainable income, I would choose theatre any day.
Yeah, it's the same. I just
For
saw,
you as a stand-up comedian.
I'm doing stand-up every day. There is nothing for it. So like
You know.
I'm going to be old. God willing, I'll be old and I'll still be in front of 30 people somewhere.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to mention was Denzel Washington recently went back to theatre doing Othello, I think it's.
Yes.
I think so. I stand corrected. And even with them, same story.
Yeah.
He feels this necessity to always just go
Yes.
back to the theatre.
Yes.
And you know, these are people that it's not about the money. It's not about the money.
Sure.
And it comes
Sure.
across with a lot of artists.
Yeah.
People just, it's a live element of, I don't know, I can't compare. I've never done a theatre play. Twiki in Sabia, baie goed gewees. Critically
Is it?
acclaimed, my ma het
Okay.
gelyk.
Yeah.
But
International, it could
ja,
have gone
kyk, het ons kon
international.
ver gegaan het.
Ja,
Ek en my
ja.
niggie was die main characters.
Okay.
But you know, with live shows, nothing beats it. It's with that immediacy of the
Yeah.
audience that
But you know, also, a lot of people talk about, julle actors, julle soek net instant gratification. It's not about that. It's not about that. For me, it's the play, there's a different energy every night. There's something, and for me, it's always been about how far can one go? Where can you take this production every night? Where does it, you know, how far can you push your character? Not that he or she becomes unbelievable, but within the parameters of that character, where, you know, because you build that character every single time you put on the shoes.
Yeah.
It's not net, oh, now I've got the character and that character remains static within, you know, the performance. No, for me, it has to be elke aand moet daar iets anders wees.
yeah.
And that for me is the beauty of performance.
So when the show starts, so like for example, Ellen Pakkies, which was intense.
Yeah.
When the show starts versus when the show is running for 6 months.
Yeah.
Is it a very visible difference in how the characters developed within that framework?
I think it's about keeping the characters fresh.
Okay?
It's about keeping the characters fresh, and how does one keep it fresh? I think you find something every night because otherwise it just becomes a technical performance.
Yeah.
You find something every night that you can tweak and make a little bit different. Hoe staan sy vanaand? Does she just, you know, does she root herself tonight? Does she just turn herself slightly? Does she angle herself? Does she put her head back when little things?
Yeah.
How did she scream that night?
Yeah.
Is it a primal scream? Is it a scream from the soos ons sê?
Yeah.
You know, is it a scream that is triggered by how he treats her, or is it a scream, you know, from her own frustration or sulke goed?
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely. I can hear what so for us that are just watching,
Yeah.
Like I funny you should mention, you said Crystal Davids. We sit on this side.
Yeah.
We don't have the tools to describe those things because
Yeah.
we haven't been on the theater stage.
Yeah.
But we feel those things. We can see when someone is transformed into that character.
Yeah.
You can feel it. And I always ask this question as well. In terms of, like, especially like a Ellen Parkies, it's dark.
Yes.
And you're living with it.
Yes.
Does that, in your personal situation, does it change you? Does it make you,
Ja.
jy's nou by die huis 'n bietjie donkerder, so?
Kyk, ons moes leer debrief. And debriefing is something that I've also spoken to younger actors about. Want baie keer is jy in 'n situasie wat jy iets moet uitbeeld that is totally against your being, totally against your religion, totally against your makeup as a human being. And you have to, at the end of the day, at the end of it all, you have to actually just stand still for a couple of moments and say out loud, this is not me. This is a character that I'm playing. Jy skop daai skoene uit en jy sê, I am not this person, this is a character. Jy haal 'n bietjie asem, jy huil as jy moet huil, jy skud jouself uit, and you have a cup of tea, and there you go. Want as jy daai goed huis toe vat,
Ja.
dis hoekom mense hulle vrouens seermaak, of vrouens maak hulle kinders seer, of hulle man seer, en sulke goed. All of those things.
Yeah. That's why, so you say jy sê 'n voorstander van hierdie gedagte van wat noem hulle dit wanneer jy in die karakter bly die hele tyd. Jy's 'n wat noem hulle dit? Method actor.
I am a method actor.
So you stay in that character.
I am a method actor, but there are limits.
Yeah.
There are limits.
Yeah.
And I don't believe, look, Stanislavski, as far as I'm concerned, was a great teacher. A great teacher, but he didn't advocate staying in the character all of the time.
Yeah.
You know, and people, there are various teachers. There's the Alexander method, there's Peter Brook, there's Stanislavski, and there are many other teachers who teach method acting. But I'm a method actor, but I believe in debriefing. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, as ek aan Ellen Parkies dink, dan dink ek aan arme Christo wat ek elke aand vir 303 performances moes hardklap. Ek het hom hard geklap en party aande het ek hom op die oor gevang en whatever. So, en dit was sy omswaaipunt, waar hy van 'n kind na 'n monster gedraai het, nê?
Yeah.
En jy het gesien hoe hy geswaai het en hy kyk, die audience het almal het saam gegaan. Soos wat hy omgedraai en hy kyk op sy gesig, dit was
menacing.
Ek kry nou nog hoendervleis as ek dink, because sometimes I got scared with the look on his face, nee.
Yeah.
And that was, maar ons het elke aand 'n debrief session gehad because it's important.
Okay. So when jy nou sê debrief, dan sê nou maar aan Ellen Parkies, dan sê Christo, ons praat.
Ja.
Is it like, just
Ja.
leave this here?
Let's just leave it.
Yeah. Dis intens, hè? It's heavy. En as iets wat ek wou genoem het voorheen, something that you spoke about, the whole sewende land time, all that.
Yeah.
The people don't realize that your personal, you as a person, Vinette, is very different from Charmaine. Charmaine is sort of very conservative, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that, and nothing wrong with that, but like, I want you to explain to this audience how different you actually are from. There's no good or bad, but it's like people
Ek het
think.
tattoos.
Jy
Ek het
tattoos. Chappies, blou ink. Met 'n koppie spel myself. Ek speel maar. Yeah. So It's such a groot verskil.
Ja.
Ja, because weer eens is 'n karakter. Dit is nie jy nie. Obviously there's things that overlap.
Ja,
ek bedoel,
ja. Nee, daar is, want ek
Ja.
sê mos altyd, jy sit altyd 'n bietjie van jouself in daai karaktere. You know, she's a mother, I'm a mother.
Ja.
There are certain things, but I'm a very open-minded person. Ek het,
Ja.
jy weet, ek het
Ja. An
baie lank
artist.
terug. ja.
Ja.
You know, I'm not a closed.
Yeah.
I'm not close to the way of the world.
Yes.
You know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm also, you know, I'm an activist in many ways. I fight for injustice and
Yeah.
the freedom of the oppressed, and I also am an advocate for animals and animal rights and things like that. So there are very many facets to who I am.
Yes.
Maar
Totally different person. Different person. She's not the same. So you touched on something else I wanted to come to. You are not afraid of telling. Klaar, geantwoord. Do ek say you are not afraid to say it? No. You are not afraid to voice your opinions, your political opinions, no matter because there's always, in our business, especially when you in South Africa, even myself, in entertainment, you feel like, hey, there's only so much work in the world for us. There's a fear that builds up in people, and then they steer away from what their true north is in terms of their political views and where they stand in the world. You've never been nervous of that. I've seen things, I've read stuff where you've challenged people publicly and gotten a lot of backlash for it, good or bad. Yeah. Where does that come from?
I think I've had to actually find my own space in this world, politically. You may or may not know, but my father was part of the government at one point. He was a Minister of Arts and Culture for the tricameral parliament.
Yes.
So immediately you get labeled the sins of your fathers, and all of that. And so jy's mos die kind van jou pa wat nou en jy het lekker gelewe, and it was also at the time, it was in the 80s, 1980, what was it, 85, when the country was in
a mess,
right? My father was blamed for sending the police into the schools and all of that kind of thing. And yes, he was the one who signed the paperwork and whatever, not without consultation from WECTU and all the teachers' organizations and whatever the case may be. But anyway, be that as it may, it was his signature on the WhatsApp. So Carter Ebrahim was he was public enemy number one.
Yeah.
My father. And of course, with him being that, I was banished from various things. I lost work at the Baxter Theatre. People wouldn't, didn't recognize me for being me. But I also didn't agree with my father's politics. I never did. So we never sat around the same table. Yeah. But I was still my father's daughter. And it was a very difficult position to be in. I mean, I was asked to publicly denounce him by SAPSA and SASO and all these organizations or whatever. But I didn't need organizations to tell me, what I needed to do at the time. I was a member of the UDF. Yes. I did what I needed to do. I didn't go running around the streets throwing stones or whatever. I was busy doing other things. I was involved with cultural organizations. I had a wonderful, wonderful political mentor a woman called Jean Naidu, who's passed on subsequently, bless her soul. And she taught me everything that I needed to know at the time. And people like Zaki Ahmad,
Yes.
came from the same group. Zaki is an amazing man. He's gone on to do wonderful things, and I'm so very proud to have met him when he was, I think he was about 17 years old when we all used to congregate at Jean's house. So I grew up never being afraid of saying what I needed to say, and being, because my feeling was always it's not just about me. It's about who is next to me and who is part of my being, who makes up part of my community. I need to be there for them as well.
Yeah. It's an extremely difficult. I didn't, when you described it to me, it's the first time I considered the facts that you are labeled as, the sins of the father. And then still as pa, it's your father. You love him. There's things that they don't see.
Yeah.
They don't understand.
Yeah.
And you can, and I cannot even imagine that position in that time, because 1985 is when things are burning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a difficult time. Yeah. And also, it's this weird thing where you now I look at it and go the audacity for organization to tell a girl to go against the father.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I don't know if that's the right way, but anyway. Thank you for sharing that. I don't think people know that.
No, but then also come things like Trojan Horse. I was there.
Okay.
Yeah. And people rallied, and myself, Denise Newman,
yes.
her husband, Clive Newman, we were all part of that.
Yes.
We were, we went out into the streets to be part of that. We were busy with a play at the time with Phyllis Klotz. And it was about the struggles of young people during that time of unrest, and what young people were feeling and how they were trying to keep themselves together. And we needed to be there to understand. So we were out on the streets,
You also come from a generation of people. You're talking about a very young person that has to take on that enormous responsibility due to the circumstance of the country at the time. And you've just built up this career for yourself, and things are sort of going your way, but then you are confronted by the realities that I now have a voice, I have to stand. And so your group of people are special in that way. You had to go and stand in the front lines, and it meant so much. I don't know, I always think about the stories that you tell, and I think about my father. My father also very political in his own spaces, and then I wonder if I'd have the courage, because it's so in times like where we are now, I would like to think that I would have that kind of courage, but I go, we will never really know unless we've been confronted by that level of. It is just, and the other day was on the news where somebody explained what apartheid was. Yeah. And I think people so quickly forget apartheid was a living law for 87 years. And it's easy for us as my kids, what does Ethan really understand except the little tidbits? And those tidbits are getting smaller and smaller. They can't connect that to a feeling. I can still sort of connect it to a feeling, because I remember when I was in 1990, I was in grade 1 or grade R, and all of a sudden there were people at the schools, and we couldn't go to school, and my father was, my mother and my father was at it at night arguing because he was now going out to a rally and not understanding, but there was a palpable feeling connected to
Yes,
that.
yes.
When now there's just a conversation. It's almost
Yeah.
something, you know,
Yeah.
and
You know what?
yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, the less your children know, the better.
Really?
Even if it's just maybe even if it's just a chapter in a history book, which it probably will be
Yeah.
and probably is,
Yeah.
that it becomes a story.
Yeah.
That it becomes a story that you tell them, this is what your grandpa fought for, in those days. Because it was too ugly.
Yeah.
Too ugly.
It is but
Too
I
ugly for them to
completely understand and
grasp
comprehend.
yeah.
Yeah, I laughed at, funny enough, very controversial character. Julius Malema said his son came up to him in an interview. He said, Dad, if you want all the white people to go, what about Toby?
Yes.
Toby is a bra by die skool.
Yeah,
And he laughed for Toby.
Yeah.
And then there was this big laugh about it. But, Toby also has very limited understanding. He is Marita.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, my neighbors' kids, my neighbors are the most wonderful people,
Yeah.
really and truly. And they're your age. And
Yes.
they've got two little ones,
Yeah.
En ek is hulle tannie Vinette.
Yeah.
As hulle van my praat, dan sê hulle, my tannie Vinette, my tannie
It's
Vinette.
an ownership.
Exactly. So, no.
Okay. No. Okay. Now, but before I let you go, I want to speak about, you mentioned that you're working on a novel. A novella. Can you tell us more?
Yes. I don't know if it's a novella or if it's a if it's a reference book or if it's but it's just a book about my journey since Sewende Laan.
Okay.
So when I say novella,
It's like an autobiography.
I'm thinking, yes, it's autobiographical.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a small book as opposed to a big book.
Yes, yes.
So I suppose novella is the
Maar when you begin to tick, all of a sudden,
ja, dan word dit nou 'n hele
yeah, you didn't know. I've never done this, but I'm sure that you
know.
rediscover things about
Yes.
yourself in
yes.
that. Yeah.
The friend of mine who's because what we did was we laid out a skeleton. En nou begin jy mos die vetjies aansit en die vleisies en so en so. Dan sê hy vir my, "But you didn't tell me this. You didn't tell me that." So I said, "Yeah, but now as I'm writing, things are coming or whatever."
Yeah.
So he says, "This book is going to be 600 pages long. I see it coming."
How?
But, yeah, and it's literally just about what has happened between Sewende Laan and now.
Yes.
Because when you get into that comfort zone of a soap that's been going for so long and was so popular, there was a kind of fear which was almost indoctrinated into you that if you leave, you're never going to get work again. En ons het almal maar, ons was almal bang gepraat.
Was it die kultuur aan die einde van die program that it was like a fear mongering? Because I love that in my day job. There was a lot of fear. A year in review.
Ja.
Jy kan jou werk verloor. Dan werk jy maar nog tot 7 uur te vanaand.
Maar daai is presies wat gebeur het daar by ons. We suddenly went from being kyk, ek was daar vir 19 jaar.
Ja.
Sewende Laan het aangegaan vir 23 jaar.
Ja.
I'm not going to, I mean, everybody knows by now that I was fired
Yes.
from Sewende Laan.
Ja.
Okay. Maar we suddenly turned into a corporate company, want ons moes forms invul en al die goedes and whatever the case may be. So dit was juist die ding van, evaluations.
Was there evaluations?
We had evaluations.
That's a corporate job.
Verstaan jy wat ek bedoel?
Yeah. To artist types. And I don't know how that works.
It became more of a corporate company and the
Okay.
creativity went for a ball of chalk,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So, and then that fear of, gaan ons ander werk kry. So, what I'm writing now is almost a thing to say, ek het werk gekry. And how much?
Baie werk gekry.
Ek het baie werk.
Die wêreld het gesit en wag vir jou om te loop baas op die plek.
Exactly.
Ja. But there's such a fear, I'm sure, that okay, nou is die ding nou verby.
Ja.
Wat nou, die maandag daarna, wanneer mense begin stel toe gaan,
Ja.
dan you're dealing with it all, eh?
Ja.
And the fear all, and then you start going, it's actually not, it's okay, okay, and then, yeah. That's so,
No,
yeah,
it was
breaks my heart a
It
little.
was terrible, and you know, I realized because when I went to my next job, which I should never have taken as quickly as I did after that, I actually had PTSD. I actually had. It was terrible. I was a flop, man.
On the new set.
On the new set, it was a flop.
Die gewoonte is 'n nuwe vibe.
You know.
Te vinnig die job gevat.
Daar's hy.
Ja, maar that's also 'n ding as jy dink, ek moet vat wat ek kan kry.
Absolutely.
En ek sê altyd vir mense, ek was nog nooit so bang in my lewe as toe ek 'n permanente job gehad het wat ek perceive het om 'n decent pay te hê.
Ja.
Toe ek in my day job was, toe ek in marketing was en my salaris kom die 25ste. Oh, I was scared. Ek was die hele tyd bang vir almal. You never get the truth out of people when they're sitting there in fear. They're never going to give you their real opinions. They're never going to give you the best that they can because hulle is bang hulle verloor iets. Yeah. It is a terrible place, especially in the space of art. And I'm saying this on, like, ek gaan praat on behalf of my mother. She watched Sewende Laan day in, day out, loved it, my whole family, right? Daar was 'n dag wat het is distinct geweest waar my ma gesê het, nee, ek kan nie meer die storielyn gaan nou aan 'n plekke toe.
Ja.
You know, that my ma het gedisengage. Sy sê, hoekom is alles dan nou tronk toe en die en, because it was cutesy, lovely, iemand se kat is weg. And then all of a sudden, Theo's karakter is nou lol met sy suster, and you know, it was, and the core audience, en ek vat nou maar so 'n sample of one, the core audience sort of started disengaging. It happens. Anyway, that being said, thank you so much for coming. I feel like we must be out. This is the first time me and Vinette met, because you've always been commenting. My ma sê altyd, "Wie gesien? Wie het gekomment? Gesien?" Ek sê, "Ja, mami, ek het dit gemaak." So she's very excited, and I would love you to come back when that book is ready.
Absolutely.
And I would love you to call me whenever you feel like you want to call. And for any old reason. Miskien is jy in die nag net bored. Kan bel, ek is wakker. Ek het kinders af pas 5 as ek kom. Thank you so much, Vinette. And we're going to have to eat this cake. Me, you and Kashif.
Yes, no, we will.
Ons gaan niks more sien.
We definitely will. Thank you very much for having me.